strength, power, confidence. We are not here to be the victims of sexual abuse. We're here to disrupt the energy around sexual abuse, helping victims and survivors recreate their story to live an empowered life.
I'm Officer Borders.
And I'm Firefighter Pearce.
Join us as we raise the roof and open the doors to new possibilities. Personal redemption starts here.
Welcome to the Disruptive Response Podcast.
It's your time to shine.
Hey everybody, I'm Officer Borders, but you can call me Jelena.
And this is Firefighter Pearce, but you can call me Grant, or Grant, as Aussies would say.
And welcome to episode 1 of the Disruptive Response Podcast. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited to be talking with you, Grant. Our first episode, how freaking exciting.
Oh, it's friggin', I've just been pumped about this all friggin' day, just like, getting all, pumped up, ready for it. So let's just get into this and, show everyone what we've got to help people move forward.
Heck yeah. So let's use episode 1 to explain what the heck disruptive response means, because I know anybody listening or watching right now, because we're on YouTube as well, anybody is probably going to not be familiar with the term disruptive response. And so you want to dive into that about how we came up with this and how we're going to just disrupt the heck out of the energy surrounding sexual abuse?
Oh, for sure. If you're listening in right now and you're probably curious what disruptive response means, and for us, we had to come up with a name, because what we're really wanting to do is, both being, survivors of sexual abuse, we wanted to create a space that was going to allow people to feel, if they've been through their own stories, whatever that may have happened in their life, we wanted to recreate the energy around what it means around abuse, because often it's one of those kind of dark, silent secrets that we sort of just keep to ourselves. And both Jelena and myself know firsthand what it is to live through life in silence. And now we are both radically confident to open up and share our stories to hopefully empower other people. So disruptive meaning that we're hoping to disrupt the energy around what it means around sexual abuse and any of those formats, of abuse.
Yeah, perfect. I'm so excited about this because, when something is not working, and it's because people are doing things the same way that it's always been done and it's not working, it takes people to come along and disrupt that and to make changes. And until you disrupt the heck out of the way that things are currently being done, the changes aren't going to happen. And so that's where we want to disrupt the silence by using our voices and disrupt the negative connotations and the negative energy that, around sexual abuse, where people get like awkward when it comes up, and just make it a normal conversation, like normalize the fact that we can have conversations about sexual abuse, and it doesn't have to be this horrible, sad thing. The trauma, what happened to us, what happened to others, is horrible. But our conversations don't have to end there. They can continue, and we can respond to the abuse. We can respond to the feelings of guilt, of shame, of suffering, of self-worth, and we can respond to that in a way that's going to help us heal and learn and grow and create a better life for ourselves, despite what we have been through, despite our trauma. So
yeah, absolutely, Jelena. Like, you've just taken the words out of my mouth. Like, I don't think I really even need to touch base more on that.
That's it. Episode 1, we're done.
yeah, that's all right. It's so good.
Just kidding.
So, if you're listening right now, really the most important thing to help build a connection and a relationship with you guys listening is that, first and foremost, we want to give you the guys the chance to listen to our stories. So it gives you a little bit of understanding about who we are, where we've been in our life, so that it'll just help to build that connection between all of us. So, Jelena, do you want to kick it off, and then I'll share my story?
Yeah, so a little bit about me. I am I'm 36 now. I live in Phoenix, Arizona. I've got 4 kids, 2 boys, 2 girls. 3 of them are adopted through foster care. I am a former law enforcement officer, so hence the officer Borders, and then we have, firefighter Pearce. But my story started when I was about 9 or 10 years old, and I was molested by my stepfather almost on a regular basis, nightly basis. He would sneak into my room in the middle of the night when he thought I was asleep and would touch me, and that ended up progressing to other things, and the abuse did not stop until I was 17, and it only stopped because he molested my younger cousin. She told her parents, and he was arrested. And that was the first time that I ever told anybody that I believed it, because it had been happening to me. And so, I know we're going to go so much further into our stories, because our stories have a lot of layers to them. But there was a lot of grooming that led up to it. There was a lot of fear. It caused me to grow up being this girl who lacked self-worth, lacked confidence, thought that I was unlovable. And it really messed with my life, with my head for so long. And it took me to really go through that healing and to make the choice, because we all have a choice in this, to go from being the victim that I was. And I was a legitimate victim. We're all legitimate victims. So I'm not trying to invalidate anyone's trauma, because everyone's trauma is validated. But you can stay in the mindset of a victim, or you can choose to become a survivor. And I chose to become a survivor. And that's why I can sit here today and I can speak confidently about my experience and say that it is possible to heal. It is possible to create a really freaking amazing life for yourself. And so I'm just really excited to share more of my story along the way, to hear more about your story, Grant, and then to really just connect with our viewers, our listeners, and give them a safe space to share their stories and to heal and grow with us.
Yeah, so. Awesome. Thanks so much, Delana, for sharing that. It's that common ground, I guess, that really has brought us together to really create this in the first place. I love the interesting thing there that really resounded with me was when you talk about that shame and guilt. And I think that is really going to be, critically important moving forward with all these platforms. We share this message, because that is what we've come from, that shame and guilt, and to be able to move forward out of that, as you called it, victim. And, you're very careful around that, which is, I'm so glad you did, because to be in that victim mindset where it feels like you never can get out of the space that you're currently in. But just, that is possible to move forward and actually have a really, really good quality of life from your past. So without further ado, I guess, with my story, I am a career firefighter. Man, I've been in a lot of different careers over my years. I guess I started as an avionics technician for the airlines on Boeing aircraft in Australia. I don't have currently children, but my girlfriend now is in Switzerland. So that's and I'm living in New Zealand. So this is this going on. It makes things a little bit difficult, but hey, where there's a will, there's a way. So for me, where the abuse happened, I was 15. I was just turned 15, or roughly around that age. I was still at high school, and I started a job with a couple of friends of mine, and well, there's one in particular, and very similar to your story. What seemed like nothing at the start was just a accidental sort of brushing past and touching me sort of thing that I was kind of like, that was weird. And then over a long sort of period of time, this was talking 6 months, 12 months or whatever, it grew. I was groomed, what I didn't know then, but was groomed into the touching and different things in cars and stuff like that, where it eventually led to full-blown anxiety and depression around how the hell did how did I allow that to happen? But with influencing of manipulation around money, and alcohol. This is where it all, you know, and so I can touch on that more in later detail, in better detail later on as we keep sharing. But that's the basic nuts and bolts of that, of my story, and also living in that state of absolute, how would I put this? I would say terrified to let anyone ever know this, and even more so suppressing it as much as I possibly could, as much as I could, to pretend it never happened. So, you know, because that fear that the stories, and this goes into the shame and the guilt side of it, where you literally create these stories in your head that no one will want to be your friend anymore. Like the idea of my friends finding out made me feel like they would just, like, you know, push me away and that sort of stuff. And then telling my family, like, it's crazy the story I had in my head, but, you know, just a touch point now moving forward and having confronted the guy, and having him charged and convicted, it's amazing that power it's given me. But, you know, if you're listening or watching this now, I don't want you to think that this is something that we're going to be sort of helping you to go and have to confront people. The main part of this story, of our channels, is that it's about raising your energy and giving you confidence to be able to, in the right circumstances, that if someone comes into your life and you're, I don't want to say proud, but you're confident to be able to, you know, just feel grounded in who you are and your worth, you may have to share your story that will allow somebody else to be vulnerable enough to share theirs with them. And this is, Jelena, I don't know if you've had the same experience, but I know for me, since I've had opened up with my family and friends, and they've completely embraced me in every possible way you can imagine, and supported me, and been the, like, in fact, I'd say that my friends have become closer because of opening up to it. What I found was, opening up to other people, they were actually sharing stories that they never told either, which was, this is kind of where this all came about for me, wanting to somehow make an impact around sexual abuse. And I guess, you know, what you put out in the universe, sometimes it comes together, and this is how we've both met to create this. So, yeah, far away, yeah. Jelena. I've been chatting for probably the last 10 minutes, so, you know.
No, and I see, and that's just what I love about you, Grant, is that you're so open and so raw and real and vulnerable, and that vulnerability is what allows you to make an impact on others, and it's just, I find it very beautiful that we have such, you know, we can have such trauma in our lives that we've experienced, but we can make something so amazing come out of it. And like, so you had so many good points about your story about how difficult it is to tell anybody, or to get out of your head where you feel like, are people going to believe me, or what are they going to think about me? Is it my fault? Could I have done something differently? How did I let this happen to me? There's so much shame, so much embarrassment, so much fear surrounding it. And you know what? Those are all very, very valid. You have felt that. I have felt that. It's all very, very valid feelings. But what we're trying to do with this, you know, this whole podcast, is to really empower other people to say, okay, this is how I'm feeling, but here's how I'm going to grow and move past it. Not that it ever goes away, because it's always going to be with us, but we can still grow and still have quality life. And so I love that you know, you talked about, or you touched on how concerned you were about how other people were going to, it was going to make other people feel. And for me, that's why I kept silent for so long, because I was worried about how it was going to make other people feel. And so, yeah. But with that, you even touched on it too. When you open up and you start talking about sexual abuse, or you talk about your experience, it allows other people to be like, hey, well, this actually happened to me, and they start talking about it, or they know somebody and they get you in touch with that. And it's just, it's freaking insane. And yeah. It's upsetting, and it's really heartbreaking to, like, once you do start opening up and you realize how many people can relate to your story because they've been through it, or they know somebody who's been through it. I mean, it's horrible, but it's also amazing, because that connection that you guys have, you know, you can form with another person just because of that similarity right there, and to be able to support each other, and to, like, Grant, we just met, we just started talking a week ago, and now here we are with a podcast, because we're like, you know what, we had an amazing conversation, and that's all it was. It was a conversation, me and you back and forth just talking, and it turned into, you know what, this is what it's supposed to be like. Where it's supposed to be like this, where we can go back and forth and we can talk, and we don't have to feel embarrassment, shame, guilt, fear. We can just say, you know what, this is our experience, and let's bounce some ideas off of each other, and this is what it's supposed to be like. So we want to have conversations like this around lots of different topics surrounding sexual abuse, and be able to teach other people that it's okay to have conversations like this. And so, yeah.
Couldn't agree more. Like, you know, it's interesting, even just hearing you speak then, it just sort of reminded me, like, this is going to be something that, you know, I believe, especially being, this is the dynamics of having a female and a male come together to talk about this topic, because often, generally, when it comes to speaking out, generally women have more courage to do that. And I'm not saying that men don't, but I think there's more of a stigma around men and this having to show up as in our society as, and this is all over the States, and I'm sure, and it's very similar to Aussie and New Zealand and probably all the Western countries. Well, for that matter, most countries, you know, this element of having to be the male role model, the masculine, the macho, and that sort of thing. And I guess, funny enough, that was one of the things. Like, if you look at all my roles over the years, you know, between now being a firefighter, you know, working for Qantas Airways, I worked in the mining industry in Western Australia as an automotive electrician. You know, I've been a personal trainer. I've done these, like, and going through that, I generally always went through it with this, like, confidence that nobody probably would have even had the awareness around, like, they would have probably never even put me in that category of, like, oh, something's happened to him in his past. And this is something that I think is important too, because I used to have this story in my head that people that got abused ended up getting on drugs and ended up, you know, living on the streets and stuff. That was a story that I'd created in my head. And it wasn't until I heard a guy up on a stage one day who was this, like, super successful guy that openly shared his story up on a stage. And it was like, hang on, wait, let's just go step back a second. You just shared your story. And this is the quote that I told you about the other day, which was that vulnerability plus confidence equals influence to inspire courage in others. And that was just something that I became super aware of when I listened to him, because I was like, it was the first time that I literally, it was like this, it wasn't that he told me to do anything, but it was just like this inner permission that, oh, hang on, I can do something about this. Like, and then it was just, no, you know, it's removed all the call it bullshit stories that I was carrying, and allowed me to be able to just own my shit and just be okay with that and be proud of the person that I am, regardless of what anyone else thinks of that, you know?
Yeah, and I love that, because it's so true. Like, we create stories in our heads, and sometimes it's, you know, our mind is just a mess, and it's just wondering, and all these different things come up, and other times it's what we're taught. You know, it's the way that we grew up, it's the society around us that makes us, you know, feel like we can't use our voices. It's there's so many reasons why we create stories, but we create these stories, and that's until we change our story, we're gonna be stuck. But the cool thing is that we can change our story. You know, that was a chapter of our life. That's not the end. That's a chapter. And we get to choose what the next chapters in our story say. And we get to choose what the end says. And so I love that you brought that up, you know, because that's something that I know we are going to focus on in future episodes. It's about, you know, recreating our story, recreating what we tell ourselves, what our mindset is, and then, you know, how we want our life to be, and what we want to do about it, and take action. And, you know, one thing that when you and I were talking the other day, that you, it's a term that you kept using that I love, and I even wrote it down, is imperfect action. And I feel like people, in areas of their life, not just, healing and growing from trauma. In any area of life, everybody thinks they have to have it figured out. Like they have to plan and figure it all out before they can take action. And I'm going to call bullshit on that, because you don't have to sit there and wait until you have it all figured out. It is okay to figure it out along the way, and it's okay to do it imperfectly. You don't have to, there's no right or wrong way to go about any of this. And as long as you're taking action, it's okay for that action to be imperfect, because it's still going to get you where you need to be. And so I love that imperfect action. And I feel like we're going to be able to, our mission is to inspire others and empower others to be able to start taking action in their lives. And that's what this is all about.
Oh, friggin' just hallelujah to that. Seriously, like that's exactly what it's about, right? Like, what I want to say to that, really, to me, there's so much, like you just said, imperfect action. There's also, on the context of imperfect action, there's that, how do I want to put this, to sort of shed a light on imperfect action as well. It doesn't, that might be literally just the story around your trauma that you're experiencing. Literally, that just might be having the courage to open up to someone. Because I can tell you firsthand, like if you're listening or watching this now, that the moment you do, like, share it with someone that you can trust, that will be the moment that it just is, it changes your life forever moving forward. And if nothing else, just that alone will be a game changer for your confidence. And it's interesting, with that going on the context of imperfect action, it's funny, like if you asked me 10 years ago that I would go and confront the guy and then have him convicted at the end of this, had him charged and convicted and all these things, if you spoke to me 10 years ago, there's not a chance I would have just been like, no, can't do that. Like, but it's funny how when you just chip away one and not look at the big picture, it's amazing what can actually come of it,
Right. And I know one of the things that we'll talk about on, because we have so many awesome episodes coming up, because we have so many awesome things to talk about. But one thing that you shared with me a little bit about your story was that confronting that person, there's so much fear involved there, but you were able to do so by taking yourself out of the equation and getting in the mindset that you weren't doing this for you were doing this for other people. And that is huge. And so my story is totally different though, because I did not confront the person. I did not want to talk to I was a scared shitless little girl at the time. I mean, well, I had just turned 17, but I was scared shitless. I had no clue what was going to happen, if he was going to get released from jail, and it could be because he was arrested for, sexually abusing my cousin. I didn't want to talk to the police. I didn't want to go to counseling. I didn't want to talk to my mom and tell her anything. I didn't want to tell anyone. I wanted to stuff it all down, pretend that it never happened, and move on with my life. And that did not work for me. And I'll get into more of my story later, but that did not work for me. And I did go down the spiral of trying to put a mask or a Band-Aid on the pain, which included alcohol. It included, pills. It included being promiscuous. It included all this stupid stuff that I tried because I didn't want to talk to anyone, and I thought that I could handle it. And after years and years and years of thinking that I can handle it and trying to ignore it, it resurfaced, and it just blew up my life, and I was forced to deal with it. And I ended up writing a book where I detailed everything that he did. I called him out. It's called Dear Pervert, I'm spilling all of your dirty little secrets. So I haven't confronted him in the sense that, like you did, of of charges and a conviction and all of that, which, I commend you for doing that, and I commend anybody who has done that, because that takes so much courage. But at the same time, the people that haven't been able to do that, it doesn't mean that they're any less courageous. You know what I mean? Everybody handles it differently, and it's okay. However we're handling it, or however we did, or we're going to, it's okay. The important part is that we're having discussions about it, and we're able to talk about it, and that's the important part.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that you just had a touch point on that, because I really want to have shine a light on that as well, that this is not about having people to go out and confront these people. It's just about giving them freedom to be okay with what's happened, whether that's, somatically in the body, because, and this is, we sort of segueing here into post-traumatic stress, all these different other areas that can be a result of, abuse and that sort of stuff. Well, these other things we can go into in other episodes. But yeah, it's definitely not about the fact that he was convicted. For me, what that was probably more about was that, sharing that story with you even the other day, was more about when it comes to having confidence in our lives, it's about tying ourselves to a value that we are generally quite confident in. And as you were aware, that protection is one of the things. Like, as I grew up, because I was the eldest of two, I'm an identical twin, and then I got a younger brother and a younger sister. So being the oldest, I was kind of always the protective brother. Like, if anyone sort of, messed with my family, I'd be the one that would be the really highly aggressive kind of protector. And so what I was able to do is more so I was able to step into that mindset of, like, he's doing this to other people, and I was able to go into that mind when I had to confront. But again, it's not on that. It was just more to help people. Like, if you find, if you have, how I'll put this, it's about really finding that confidence in the values that you enjoy in life, and that's where you'll be able to catch yourself with more confidence to do what you want in life, and that's regardless of confronting anyone.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. And the confidence, it might not be there right now for people, but it will come. And I hope that anybody listening or watching can get that feeling of hope, that sense of hope, that it does get better, and that, you're going to get through it. It's going to be okay. And, like you said, with that confidence comes your worth. And we're going to talk a lot on this podcast about self-worth, because having lived through so much trauma myself, I mean, self-worth for me, it has always been such a big thing. Like, I didn't believe that I deserved to heal, or that I created these stories in my head that I didn't deserve better, and so many other things. But everybody listening needs to hear that they are worthy. They are worthy of loving themselves. They're worthy of giving themselves permission to use their voice, to heal, to process their trauma, to take whatever step they need to take. And it might not be anything except just coming back to our next episode and listening. Like baby steps, wherever you're at in your life, in your process, wherever you're at with this is totally okay. We just wanted to create a safe space for people to be able to talk about this, and or to even just listen and to hear different perspectives, because we have different stories, Grant, you and I, and we come from different places in different families, and our perspectives are completely different on certain things. And so we just want this to be a safe place for everybody to come to listen, to talk, to engage. And I'm really looking forward to more episodes, and to see, there's so much to talk about, so many amazing guests that we're going to have come on the podcast. And yeah.
I'm freaking pumped, man. I seriously cannot wait for what's to come. Like, I really think that this could be something that will really just be a game changer for so many people that are looking for this type of arena.
Yeah, definitely. And so for anybody listening, watching, so Grant and I we're doing this podcast, right? So if you're listening, you can subscribe. Make sure you subscribe to the podcast on iHeartRadio, iTunes, Spotify. Then you can also go over and watch us. We're pretty cute, by the way. You can go over and watch us on YouTube. So our YouTube channel is Disruptive Response podcast on YouTube, and then you can just subscribe to the podcast, the Disruptive Response podcast, on whatever platform you're listening on. And then we also are on Instagram and Facebook. So on Facebook, we have our page, that's the Disruptive Response Podcast, but we also have a community that we have created, a community that we're building in a Facebook group called Disruptive Responders. And we want to invite you to join this community of disruptive responders. And what we mean by that is this community is a safe space to listen, a safe space to talk, if you're willing to, a safe place to come and get resources, a safe place to maybe you are listening right now and you have not experienced sexual abuse firsthand yourself, but you are still affected by a family member, a loved one, a friend who has experienced sexual abuse, and you just don't know how to help them, or you feel awkward, you feel weird when the subject's brought up and you don't know how to respond. This is a place where we want to all be able to educate each other, not just Grant and I educating you guys, but educate each other on all aspects of surrounding sexual abuse. And that's where we're going to fire up, we're going to disrupt the crap out of the energy surrounding sexual abuse, and we're going to have these conversations inside our community where we want you to be involved. And so we'd really love if you would go and join us there. And you can also go to our website, disruptiveresponse.com, and we're going to have tons of awesome resources and information and stuff for you there, maybe a few extra videos. So yeah, I'm really excited. I know you are too, Grant, to just really connect with everybody and to start having these conversations, because we're going to respond to sexual abuse in a way that gets people fired up and teaches them that it's freaking okay. You don't have to feel guilt. You don't have to feel shame. You don't have to do this alone. We're going to do this together.
Awesome. Friggin' one of the things that this is going to be a great channel for people is that there's so many things around abuse and how it affects us in the patterns of our life. Like, one of the things I'll touch on in further episode is like how the pattern shaped up, even just in relationships, because the way without dealing with it, it shaped up in my relationships was, it's funny, looking back, I can see it clear as day. But when I was in the moment, it was something that I was kind of conscious of, but not really. And it was just a cycle of repetitive failures, like in relationships. And it's now that it's like, I wish I'd known that even, it just could have been that game changer. So for further episodes, we're going to be able to go into relationships. If you're struggling with relationships, there could be patterns there that we'll be able to help you unpick and break down to really get to the bottom of it. Whether it's triggers for, with my experience with, and I'm not sure about yourself, Jelena, but PTSD. That's a smorgasbord of, and I just want to really touch point right now. We are. I don't know about yourself, Jelena, but I'm not a qualified therapist or anything like that. And this is just conversational topics of what has helped us or what we've identified in ourselves. For me, actually, I did, being a firefighter, we had free psychologist sessions and stuff like that. And at the October last year, I was just at a sort of crossroads. I was really stuck whether to go from New Zealand and, because me and my girlfriend had split up, and her being a New Zealander, I was like, well, I'm not sure that I really need to be here anymore because all my family's in Australia. So anyway, she helped me sort of break that down and all that sort of thing. But, and it also, that was where I discovered even more about the fact that what I thought was just a mental health issue, but I never uncovered, was actually PTSD. And it's now that I've had a huge awareness around that. It's so easy for me to identify where the triggers were and how that all broke down. And I think that in itself, for anyone that's been through abuse, sometimes they can often go through some form of post-traumatic stress. And it doesn't even have to be sexual. It can be like, it could just be from being brought up around your parents. Like it can be any little thing. So, I feel if you're listening in, like, and you're just curious, this is going to be a channel that's it's going to be. Honestly, we don't even know how this is going to navigate yet. We're just excited to put stuff out there that we feel at the bottom of our heart is going to help people move forward in their life. So listen in, guys, because this is what it's going to be all about.
Yeah, that is so awesome. And Grant, I love that you pointed that out, that and it's important for people to know that neither you or I or our licensed therapists or counselors or professionals in this, or this arena, all that we are survivors. We're survivors, and we are sharing our experiences, and we're sharing what's worked for us, what hasn't worked for us, and that's it. So if you are struggling right now, I also went through therapy. I had an amazing counselor. I did EMDR therapy, which is an amazing form of deep therapy for this kind of trauma, and it helped tremendously. Not saying that anybody listening must go out and find a therapist, but I would absolutely highly recommend it. I know you just recommended it, but we are not therapists. We're just people. We're just people with experiences who want to share our stories and want to inspire and empower other people to share theirs as well. And so I am so glad that you pointed that out, that we're not therapists, people. So don't think that we're gonna sit here and we're not here trying to fix you either. We're just trying to get you fired up to where you want to fix yourself.
Yeah.
Not that there's anything broken, not that there's anything wrong, but if you're still listening right now in this moment, it's because something has resonated with you, something has struck a chord, something has told you that there's a place in your heart, in your mind, in your spirit that is calling you to make a change, even if it's a small change. So
yeah, I love it. It's confidence in your story. That really, if you could surmise it to 2 words, it's confident. Well, that's more than 2 words. Surmise it literally does again for that. Like just converting it from, actually it's so interesting. I was listening to an audiobook driving home, because it's an hour for me to drive from the fire station back home, and it was on. You may have heard of it. It was the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And he talked about Viktor Frankl, who was one of the Holocaust survivors from Germany, and in the Nazi camps. And he talked about stimulus and response, and he was able to come out. He was able to create a sense. The one thing they couldn't take from him was his mind, and stimulus was something that his entire family had been murdered, and he basically had nothing, what a lot of people would say is to live for. But the stimulus he created in his head was an imagination for his future about going and talking to students and stuff. And I think with that story, I thought that was just so profound, because I think in many ways, when we've had our own stories or our own past, but we attached an imagination or a story, which we've kind of lightly touched on, that we wanted to be able to help others. And through that imagination, created a belief, and that's what gave us the confidence to move forward. So, however that imagination looks for other people, this may even be the channel for you to be able to create your own imagination of something more uplifting, something more empowering, that's going to allow you to actually move forward into new possibility, rather than maybe a story that's going on with you now that creates a lot of anxiety, creates a lot of pain and suffering around,
Yep, exactly. Rewrite your story. Take control, give yourself permission. And as soon as we give ourselves permission to move forward and to start to get our confidence back and change our story, man, crazy, awesome, good things start happening. So I'm really excited for everybody.
Same here. Cannot friggin' wait. Let's rock this.
Heck yeah. Let's disrupt just the silence, disrupt the fear, disrupt the stories that we create in our heads. Let's just respond to it like this, with conversation, and just start making changes.
Yeah, love it. Conversation, like right there, conversation. It's such a, no, actually, I'll change that. It really is. It's having it's getting to a point in life where I believe that you can get to a space where you can be vulnerable in conversation. Like that to me is what can create incredible like insight in a relationship, and not to come from a space of like, oh, this happened to me, poor me, but more like what I found, like even when we've shared our stories and been vulnerable enough to share our past, even now with my current relationship, I'm able to have incredible conversations with her, because even when I feel something fear that pops up for me, I'm able to just go, this is going to serve to make my relationship become even stronger, especially considering that she's over in Switzerland. So we have to incorporate even like better strategies of communication to keep it super interactive, because it's been like even 5 months for us. Like there's things we have to do, all right? So
Right.
that,
Yeah, and I love how you said like you know, is it something like you just mentioned the word serve, like is that going to serve you or not? And wherever, for anybody listening, watching, what is going to serve you in a powerful way, you know, like whatever place you're at right now with your healing, with your growth, with your confidence, with your story, is it serving you? Because if it's not serving you, then you need to change your damn story. You need to start writing the new chapter. If it's serving you and things are working for you, that is freaking awesome. Go into our community and start sharing what's working for you. But if something's not working for you, then like green light, green light, green light. Give yourself permission to go forward and to start taking action, even imperfect action. Start taking action to figure out what is going to serve you, and to start doing those things that are going to serve you and serve the people around you, and serve your life.
yeah, I love that. Yeah, it's and probably an important note there too is like, you know, if you're listening or watching this and you have something that you're terrified to actually, you know, open up about, you know, your own past, just know that if you do reach out to us through our social media platforms, that we're not going to sit here and just go, right, have you done this? You know, have you gone and spoken to this person? Just know that whether it's me or it's Jelena, because, you know, we're both looking after the social media platform. So, you know, you can either ask to speak to both of us, and, you know, if it's you just want someone to confide in, or you just want to ask for a little bit of help, like maybe someone to speak to, or, you know that we're going to be here and we will help you to take whatever road that you need to go down, you know, and know that we'll be your biggest champion. Because first and foremost, I think one of the biggest things that really empowers us and gives us a lot of freedom emotionally and personally is when we know that someone's got our back. And I think just that alone can make such a big difference.
Right. I felt alone when I was going through this. I felt completely alone. I never, ever imagined that it would happen to my younger cousin. I never imagined that it was happening to my brother as well. It wasn't just happening to me, it was happening to my brother. And I never even imagined that our stepfather, a man, you know, as a little kid, I never imagined that a man would be sexually abusing a boy. Because when I was growing up, that nobody talked about sexual abuse. Nobody hardly ever talked about sex, at least not in my household when I was growing up. But now in this generation, these days with technology and social media and just everything that we're exposed to on a daily basis, everybody talks about sex these days, right? Or a lot of people talk about sex these days, which is okay because sex is a normal, healthy thing. But when I was growing up, still today, people don't talk about sexual abuse enough. There's not enough conversation around it. But when I was growing up, there was no conversation. And so I felt alone. I always felt alone. And that's why I felt so embarrassed and so shameful and so fearful, because I didn't think anybody could relate. I didn't think that they would listen. I didn't think that they would believe me. So I love that you just pointed out that, like, we're here. We're here because we want to be. We're here because nobody, or we didn't get the support, or maybe you did. I don't know, Grant. Maybe you really did get the support when, but we're here and we are going to believe you and we're going to listen, and we just want to have that community so you don't feel alone in this, and so you can start to move forward because you know that you're worth moving forward.
Yeah, so true. I couldn't agree more with you. Hey guys, so if you've been listening into this podcast or you're on YouTube watching us right now, this is just the start to a new beginning for so many people, or at least that's how we perceive or want it to be. So please join us in our upcoming episodes across all our platforms, and chill out, relax, kick back, whether it's driving to work or you're at home. This is going to be all about you and empowering your life to move forward. So thank you so much for listening in to us. We really appreciate your time and spending this time with us. And, as we grow through this, we hope to grow with you as well.
Yep. Awesome. Yeah. Thank you guys so much for listening, for tuning in. And we will be back with episode 2 really soon. So, all right.